with all eyes on Pam Bondi because this April 14th sworn deposition for the Oversight Committee came and went. She didn't appear. You made an announcement this morning that you were moving forward with a contempt resolution, and then suddenly we had an update. Can you explain what that was?
Yeah, look, she obviously missed her date 2 weeks ago, right? So she was have to come in, have her deposition in place. It was under subpoena, bipartisan. She misses it. And so since that date, we've been warning Pam Bondi and Chairman Comer that we were going to file contempt charges. And if we did not hear, we reached out to the DOJ, we reached out to Pam Bondi and her counsel directly. We've been talking to oversight Republicans, nothing, no information. And so this morning, just like we promised, we filed contempt charges in the House. And, ironically enough, 45 minutes later, after we file those charges, James Comer announces we now have a date that's been rescheduled with Pam Bondi. And so clearly they folded. I'm glad that we actually finally have a date. We've got to ask these questions. Pam Bondi has a lot to answer for. And I'm glad that James Comer finally set a new date.
What do you presume happened behind the scenes? Do you think that this date already existed and was being hammered out between Pam Bondi and James Comer or the oversight Republicans? Or do you think that they saw that you basically called their bluff and were like, okay, what date works for you? April 29th, great, let's put it on the books, and then pretend, of course, that was going to be the case all along?
Yeah, we don't know, right? What we do know is we had zero information or communication. We had sent Comer a letter asking if there had been any progress on setting the date. Nothing. We'd called, talked to James Comer's staff, no response. We reached out to Pam Bondi, to the DOJ, nothing. And so as of this morning, by the time we had filed those contempt charges, we had zero communication or information about rescheduling that deposition. And so the fact that 45 minutes later they came up with this date, whether they had already been working on that date or whether they came up with it on the spot, we'll never know because they weren't communicating with us. What matters is we finally got a date and that we pushed and got the Republicans to actually do the right thing. And I think, I've said from day one, we have to be in the fight. If we're willing to fight and push hard, we're going to get good results.
So we've heard this announcement from DOJ or Pam Bondi's team that it's going to be May 29th, but have you gotten official word? And I ask that because right now you have, the contempt resolution that's filed. And so that's going to move forward. And we've seen, this wouldn't be the first time if Pam Bondi decided to play some games. This wouldn't be the first time that, the Republicans will have screwed around. And so is this contempt resolution going to remain in place and presumably moving forward while you wait for any official correspondence here?
It is. We're not removing the contempt resolution. It's been filed in the U.S. House, and now we have a date. And so I don't expect there to be a vote or this get taken up until we see if she actually appears. And if she doesn't appear on her scheduled date, then I think that this obviously gets elevated. And I think it'll really cause a lot of issues for Republicans. She needs to come for her deposition. It was a bipartisan vote through a subpoena. And so I'm glad that we have this date, but it's just unfortunate that we have to fight so damn hard for them to do the right thing. But we're going to continue to do so to get justice for the survivors.
So the Assistant Attorney General, Harmeet Dillon, had come onto Twitter and replied to a tweet that Oversight Democrats posted where you all laid out that Pam Bondi was going to contend with these contempt charges. And Harmeet Dillon said, fake news, why lie, Oversight Dems? You know that Pam Bondi, through counsel, agreed to a specific date your committee counsel proposed for a transcribed interview earlier this week. Be better. Cheap stunts like this are a waste of time and space. Now, we've already spoken about the fact that, there was no date that was given to the Oversight Democrats. This is just, this is basically just make-believe to make themselves look better in retrospect. But why do you presume that Harmeet Dillon, on behalf of the DOJ, is out here advocating for Pam Bondi when just a few weeks back, the whole point of this effort to try and claim that Pam Bondi didn't need to be there was because she's no longer at the DOJ, and so she can no longer speak for what's happening at the federal government. And yet now you have DOJ officials who are speaking on behalf of Pam Bondi and fighting her battles for her.
Well, I think what's incredibly bizarre is the DOJ continues to essentially be a mouthpiece for Pam Bondi and its officials. She doesn't work there anymore. The DOJ has said that their position is that Pam Bondi doesn't need to appear. And now we are there pushing back and calling us liars. That's a joke. I want to see the correspondence. I want to see the email or the letter where they told us the date. They didn't share anything with us. And so they were communicating with Chairman Comer. He had been keeping us in the dark. And so, look, we're not going to sit around and just take their word for it. I think at the end of the day, we need her to show up. We're going to keep that contempt resolution filed. Pam Bondi hasn't released 50% of the files. And now Todd Blanche is doing the same thing. She doxed survivors. She put them in danger. Why were Ghislaine Maxwell given so much special treatment and so many others then get exposed in the files and the personal information put up? Just the haphazard nature of the way they've treated this whole thing. It's got to be investigated. And so we look forward to her coming in. We have a lot of questions for her. I think she's going to face a very, very aggressive and committed group of Democrats to get the truth.
And that's the part I want to dig into here because, while I think all of the mechanics surrounding, the will she, won't she come are certainly interesting, the important part of all of this is what's going to happen once she appears. And so can you talk about why it's so important to get Pam Bondi in front of the Oversight Committee for a sworn deposition?
Yeah, I mean, look, first, this is the same attorney general that said the binders were on her desk. I mean, she started off by creating this whole bizarre MAGA influencer event early on, saying that the files were released. They weren't. Then she said that it was a hoax and followed along with President Trump was saying that wasn't true. Then they tried to hide the files. They defied the subpoena. I mean, over and over again, this has been just a constant cover up at the highest levels. We need to ask questions. Who was the person that actually mandated